Hello, in this tutorial we are going to create the geometry of an artery with stenosis. Arteries with stenosis are those one which has decreased sections inside them, and this phenomenon happens because of some cardiovascular diseases, and it has the overall idealized shape like this. If we suppose this is the inlet of the artery, blood flow comes uh, from inlet, passes through this area, stenotic area, and exits from the outlet. And we are going to create this geometry in ANSYS Workbench. In ANSYS Workbench, I'm going to choose Geometry tool. I drag and drop it inside Project Schematic. And I'm going to use Design Modeller to create the geometry. The main idea of creating this kind of geometries is that first of all we should create this section over here, section of the wall, and then rotate this section relative to middle axis, the center axis. So the distance between this part and central axis would be equal to radius of the artery. If I suppose the diameter of my artery is around 5 millimeters, the radius would be 2.5 millimeters. So first of all, inside Design Modeller, I'm going to change units to millimeters, and I'm going to choose one of XY or the other planes, and I'm going to start the sketching with drawing this section. Maybe my artery has the dimension of 10 centimeters in the horizontal direction, so I would choose the dimension 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters for 10 centimeters. And as I said, the distance between this part and the middle axis, I want to rotate the section relative to this axis, so the distance between here and here would be 2.5 centimeters. It's equal to the radius of the RT, 2.5 millimeters. Okay, and my artery maybe has a thickness equal to 1 millimeter in this part. I change it to 1 millimeter. Okay, and also I'm going to draw another part here. So I'm going to close this section. I also can draw this part with a rectangle tool. Let's undo all of these parts and draw it with rectangle tool. It's pretty easy to do that. So I'm going to choose rectangle. My rectangle would have the distance between here and here equal to 2.5 millimeters, and also the thickness would be the 1 millimeter, and also this part is 100 millimeters. So I have a whole section which I want to rotate this section relative to this middle axis, but I have to create this area, stenotic area, in that section. So I would choose a random place for that area. I'm drawing a line here, and maybe this area has a specific distance from inlet, so I would specify a distance from this area to here. For instance, it is the middle of the artery, so it would be 50 millimeters, this area. And also in numerical studies, the whole geometry, I mean the angle between this part and the horizon matters, and it's very important. But here I'm going to use random dimensions. It's not important for me here. So I create this part, and I also don't want this part. Let's go to modify and trim this part. So I have the geometry like this, and as I said, the distance between here and here matters, but here I'm going to ignore that distance. So after I created this geometry, I'm going to rotate the whole section relative to this axis. For this purpose, I go to modeling part and choose that sketch and choose revolve. I apply the sketch I'm going to use and choose the axis which I'll be going to rotate this geometry. I click generate, and I would have the geometry with the stenosis part. As you see, the outside the cylinder has a uniform shape, but inside of it has a reduced section here. Then maybe I want to add fluid part inside the geometry. For this purpose, I'll be going to fill this geometry here. So I'm going to use fill tool here, and here it asks me which geometry I should fill. This part is a little bit challenging, and it's difficult to choose faces inside the geometry, so I'm going to change the view to wireframes, and because I want to choose the faces inside the geometry, so I'll go and change view to wireframes, and now I don't see the outside part of the wall, and I'm just will be choosing the inside surfaces. Here I click and I see the outside surface is chosen, and so if I just click this part, the inside surface is selected, and for the other surfaces I'm going to hit the control button and deselect this part and select these two parts. And for the other surfaces also, I'm going to deselect this part and select, sorry, these parts. Let's do it again. For this part, I'm going to deselect and select this part. And also for this surface, I'm going to use the same method. So here I have 5 faces selected, and faces are all inside my pipe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faces are selected, and I apply it. And if I generate the fill tool and change the view to normal view, here I'm going to have 2 geometries. One of them is solid, which is the wall of the geometry, and the second one is fluid part, which is frozen. If I just hide the solid part, I would see the fluid part here, which has the stenotic area, like this picture. Thank you for your attention. I hope this tutorial was helpful. See you next time.